Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is an entrepreneur as well as a fellow podcaster, no other than Mr. Patrick Francey.
Hi there.
Welcome, Mr. Patrick. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Not much to add to short Cole's notes. I'm Patrick Francey. I'm the creator and host of my podcast, The Everyday Millionaire. I'm the CEO of my business, the Real Estate Investment Network, as well as a multiple business owner for over 40 years.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Patrick. And today let's talk about high performance is a result of low tolerances. Can you tell us about this topic of yours?
Well, a lot of what it describes is right in the saying. High performance is a result of low tolerances. And when we talk about high performance, we want to be high performance ourselves. We want to create high performance teams, high performance businesses. Well, how do we do that? One of the things that we have to consider is, all aspects of what we do, how we show up, how we operate. We have low tolerances. And low tolerance represent the fact that we're designed to move with velocity, we're designed to move with momentum. And when we consider that high performance is low tolerances, it's also about what do we tolerate with ourselves. So, in other words, high performance, if you commit to high performance, means you've got great routines, you've got great systems, great habits. And when you drop the tolerance for that, then you come up with excuses. I don't have time to work out. I'm not being very creative today. And you start to have all these reasons to not move forward. And that's because we don't have low tolerances. We have, we are just prepared to let things slide. So when we tolerate things with ourselves, our performance lowers. And that is the case with our teams and with our businesses as well.
Mr. Patrick, how would you become having a high performance in all the things that you're doing in your business, in your podcast? Can you give us a tips?
Yeah, well, some of it is about design. In other words, it's design of systems and, creating the right environment for you to succeed. So when we create the right environment, when we create the right culture within our teams, we set standards, we set benchmarks, and then we have the discipline to fulfill on them. So I'll use a working out as an easy one to use as an example. But let's say you commit to working out 4 days a week, and you have a specific goal of, let's say, a weight management that you're doing, and then you have to then have the discipline to follow through. But sometimes discipline isn't enough. We're human, and so we get distracted and we have bad days, and we kind of create excuses to not work out. I'm not feeling so good. It's too hot. It's too cold. I got too much on my mind, and then the next thing you know, we create these excuses. So when we have low tolerances, what we do is we put the environment in place and the structure in place. So maybe I need to get a trainer. Maybe I need to make sure that all of my workout gear is easy to access in the morning. So, in other words, I get out of bed, I put on my workout gear. Well, I've already one step towards doing my workout. So, a lot of high performance is by design, it's intentional. And that's the case for your business, that's the case for sports teams, for example. You have agreements, you have processes, and you have agreements within the team, for example. And that is something that, for example, in a meeting, how many times you say we're going to start a meeting at 9 o'clock, and especially in the virtual world today, the next thing you know, somebody on the team showing up at 9:02, 9:05. Oh, sorry, couldn't get logged in. all sorts of excuses rather than prepare and say, okay, I got a meeting at 9, which means I need to start getting online 5 minutes to 9 so that when the meeting kicks off, we go. Now, if we have that agreement as a team, that's it. Everybody shows up at 9 o'clock ready to go. There isn't this 9:05, 9:02, and the next thing you know, the meeting's not even kicking off till 9:10. When you have those agreements in the place with the team, holding each other accountable, and perhaps even having some consequences. The next thing you know, the bar performance goes up because we all agreed to it, and there's even some consequences that go along with it. Maybe it is if you're not here at 9, you can't get on the meeting, and if you miss the meeting, that's not a good thing. So these are all ways of holding ourselves accountable as well.
Mr. Patrick, this philosophy seems to flip the script on the grind culture. Instead of pushing through the pain, you're advocating for removing friction. Why is it removal of tolerations are more sustainable path to high performances?
There's, if I understand what you're asking or saying, there's a fundamental is that when you have agreements, when you express what the outcome is going to be, and we all agree how we're going to achieve it, we then within the culture have a high performance culture. So if I am with a team of 10 and we say, okay, this is how we want to host meetings, what's your thoughts? We get input from everybody, how we want to show up, how prepared we need to be. The fact that if if you show up at 9, you're late. If you show up at 5 to 9, you're not early, you're on time. So the point is that when we have agreements, whatever they are, the team agrees to it. That's a culture that you agree is high performance. That's what it takes to be a high performance team. When you have those agreements in place, then all the expectations are managed. And then you have a benchmark to say, this is what you're being measured against. So it's a bit of a standard of performance, but the terminology is really clear. We agree, in this case, as this is an example of the team, is we just have agreements that we don't break, and we hold each other accountable for it.
Interesting, Mr. Patrick. And how do you distinguish between a healthy challenge that builds resilience and toleration that drains energy and hinders performance?
Well, when we look at building resilience, we have to challenge ourselves. Everybody wants life to be easy, but the reality of it is we don't grow in easy. We grow when there is, in fact, something that we need to push against, something that we need to overcome. We need to stress our brain mentally, physically, even emotionally. We go through these challenging times, and it's what equips us to elevate, to continue to grow. Now, human nature is to expand. Fulfillment comes from being a contribution. Fulfillment comes from making a difference in other people's lives. And so when we start to understand that in order for us to grow, to get stronger, we need to challenge ourselves. Again, I'll go to the gym analogy. To strengthen a muscle, you have to push it to its limits. You have to lift heavy weight, and you have to do it repeatedly. And that's what gives you the strength. When we face challenges in business, in life, in relationships, challenges in communication, it challenges us, but it stretches us to grow that muscle of how to deal with those challenges. In doing that, we gain experience, we grow stronger. It's why, at this point in my life, at 67 years old, I have a lot of wisdom, and it came from busting through the challenges. It came from leaning into what life had to present to me. And so I got stronger, I got wiser, and it was through that experience. An unchallenged life is an unfulfilling life. Resilience comes from proving to ourselves that we can get through those challenges, but it's a decision. I want to get stronger. I want to put myself in a position where I'm challenged, where I'm stretched, where I have to think, where I have to work harder, where I have to work up a sweat, or stretch my capacity mentally, or learn more to pull it off. Those are the challenges that help us grow and create the resilience that we have, because each time we grow, we're going to the next level of challenge. And we need resilience in order to look at that and go, I got this, I can do this. Challenges also give us confidence. And when we can break through those challenges, when we can overcome those things that face us, that we face, we gain confidence. That's all part of resilience.
What are the most common yet often overlooked silent energy leaks that people tolerate in their daily lives that, well, always they're crashing to their potential?
You know, you can describe an energy leak in a lot of different ways. But I'll give you an example is that we often use the phrase of, well, there's a phrase that I coined, which is called mind shui. And mind shui is feng shui for the mind, feng shui for the brain. In other words, feng shui is about decluttering your space. We think about feng shui and it makes sense to us. We understand energy and the flow and the impact of feng shui. But mind shui is feng shui for the mind. It's clearing the clutter of the mind. And when we start to learn how to do things like journal or meditate or recognize our hidden beliefs, those are all energy leaks, mental energy leaks that create even physical uh, exhaustion. And so energy leaks are also about incompletions. We're distracted. We've got 17 projects on the go. We think we're just being all, just being so busy, and we are, but we're not being productive. And we've got all these things that aren't complete: jobs, projects, conversations, relationships. And those are all there. They may be not even so conscious as they are subconscious. They're in the back of our mind. They're thoughts that pop up all the time that we're having to think about, think through. Oh, I got to make that phone call, or I should finish this conversation. Uh, oh, I started that 3 weeks ago. I want to get it finished. Oh no, I'm over my deadline. Those are all energy leaks. And when we talk about an energy leak, where do we get de-energized? We get de-energized mentally, emotionally, and certainly when we think about our thought processes, we're so busy thinking about all the incompletions, all the things that we haven't done or haven't finished doing. Those are what rob us of our energy. They also keep us confused. And that's why when we think about mind shui and decluttering our brain, we go through the process of understanding ourselves, self-reflection, thinking about what we're thinking about. And these are all things that we come to train ourselves in doing. And then you start to realize and you recognize energy leaks and you get them handled. You actually don't have those incompletions because you recognize them as energy leaks and you start to manage it.
Mr. Patrick, is there a danger of this becoming form of perfectionism or an obsessive quest for a frictionless life? How do you find a healthy balance?
Well, I think, we go through these realizations that there is no end in sight to being the best version of ourselves. When we go on and have a goal of, growing into all of what's possible, we start to understand that it isn't in the doing of things as much as we have to look at what we're doing, but who do we need to become to achieve the results? So, is there a chance of perfectionism? No, I think if you've evolved, you start to realize that there is no perfect, that the journey of being a better version of ourselves is a journey. Again, I've been doing these bodies of work for 40 years. And at 67, I continue to try and be the best 67-year-old I can be. I want to be, in my world, I want to be a stand for what's possible at 67 years old. I want to be known for making a difference, being a contribution, supporting others in their success. So, can you be a little bit obsessive compulsive about it?
Indeed, I think so.
Perhaps. Or you just hold a. Sorry, did I interrupt?
No, go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead, Mr. Patrick.
So, my point is that when you consider the possibility of being obsessed, I don't think it's it. I think you'd be passionate about life and passionate about growing and testing and again seeing what you can achieve in terms of your goals, your values, your relationships, and how far you can go and the difference you can make in the world.
Okay, Mr. Patrick, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in third season, and movie 101 review, music 101 and fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Patrick, if you could leave our audience with one single actionable piece of advice to start lowering their tolerations today, what would it be?
I'll leave you with a quote, and it's one of my favorites, which is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that was a quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, which is to say that in our life, our perspective is our perception. And if we want to change how we view the world, we need to shift our perspective. And we can do that by learning and by hanging around with people who stretch us and provide us a different perspective that helps us shift our perspective of life.
Very well said, Mr. Patrick, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your podcast, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Well, we are launching a brand new program called the Mind Shui Way. This is a self mastery program for those who have been on the journey of being the best version of themselves. You can go to theeverydaymillionaire.ca or tedm.ca, TEDM, the Everyday Millionaire acronym.ca, and subscribe to our newsletter and find out all about the work that we do.
Yes, people. And Mr. Patrick, can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
You know, one of the books that had the biggest impact on me in the past couple of years and was very, very insightful was a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Patrick. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Patrick. And if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering episodes of the new podcast, and for sure, the Millionaire or the Everyday Millionaire podcast. So, Mr. Patrick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Moticam people, see you soon.